So just about for the last decade, I have been using an Apple Watch as my primary go-to when it comes to daily watch use, my fitness type workouts like running and occasionally biking. I don't always have a head unit on all the bikes that I'm riding, and a watch is just a super handy tool to have because you can simply just track your activity right there, and it should record pretty much most of the metrics. However, I have found, like a lot of people, that Apple doesn't really iterate fast enough when it comes to the fitness side of things, and even with some technology. Even though I'm pretty much a big Apple guy, I like a lot of their products, and I've enjoyed the Apple Watch for about 10 years now. I bought the very first one when it came out, and the big question for me was, will I miss it over using a different product? Well, today I've got two products that I want to show you. One is a watch and one is a computer head unit. It's the Coros Pace Pro and the Coros Dura. These are both GPS units that will communicate with each other, and they're primarily developed around running and biking. So first, let's go over the Pace Pro and see if it's a good replacement for the Apple Watch that I've been using for so long. So whenever you pick up your Pace Pro, it's gonna come in this nice little box right here. Very nice packaging. It's all cardboard material. Now, this is the Pace Pro. Now, I have never used a Coros product, and it's been years since I've used a different watch other than my Apple Watch. And I gotta say, the display on this is actually pretty impressive. It's 1.3 inches and it's round. So I feel like I'm getting a lot more data on the screen than I was with my Apple Watch, which is really nice. And it does have a couple of features that my Apple Watch SE doesn't have. Like for instance, it has an always on display. So I can see the time all the time whenever I'm actually just like sitting there. I don't have to raise it up. However, it does have that feature built into it. So if you do want to conserve battery quite a bit, then you can turn the always on display off. But also it has a lot of different watch screens on it, and you can go in and you can even customize the watch screen. And I wound up choosing this kind of cool mountainous looking display. And whenever it goes to a basically off screen, you'll see that it just displays the mountain and then the time. Now, a couple of things that I do miss over my Apple Watch. One is Apple Pay. This obviously isn't going to have Apple Pay built into it. The other thing is that there is no weather on the screen. I do wish that they would display the current weather. That way I can kind of know like, hey, it's 75 degrees outside. I'm getting ready to go for a run or a bike ride. I don't have to go pull out my phone. I could just raise my wrist and see the weather on here. But you do get all kinds of different metrics. You're going to get your steps, your beats per minute, and you're also going to get your calories that you've currently burned. Then you can click through with this side button right here. You can click through and you'll see on the bottom of the screen, it'll actually go through all kinds of different metrics, including like your battery life, sunrise, sunset. So yeah, you do have a lot of settings on here, which are really nice. Now, I'm not gonna dive deep into the details on this because I wanted to kind of primarily approach this as, can this replace my Apple Watch? And am I gonna be really happy with it in the end? So with that said, let's go ahead and let's just take a quick look at the menu system so you guys kind of know what's all in this menu, and you can kind of decide for yourself if maybe you want to drill into some more detail about these items on the menu. So there is a lock. You do have to hold down this digital crown right here. Once you hold that down, you saw it spin around the outside, it unlocks it. You can go into the menu system by holding this side button down here. And as you can see, you've got a lot of different things that you can pick from. There's a couple in here that I do find extremely useful. One of them is heart rate broadcasting. And this is something that I have wanted for a very long time on the Apple Watch. And it's kind of been there, but kind of not been there. It's not really consistent. And I blame a lot of that because Apple locks them down behind their kind of walled garden. But with the broadcasting, I can actually broadcast this heart rate that comes from this watch over to any device that can accept heart rate monitoring. So if you're used to using, say, a Bluetooth strap, you can use this instead, and it's always on your wrist. Now, there is one caveat that I have found. You do want to make sure that whenever you do use this as a heart rate monitor, that you have it relatively tight on your wrist and you don't have it slid way down here by where basically the crease of your wrist would be. I did go on a 50-mile bike ride the other day, and some of my heart rate data was a little bit too low for what I was actually feeling. And whenever I stopped, readjusted the watch, tightened it down, and it started reading it more accurately. So make sure that you have the watch tightened down properly. But other than that, it's done really, really well as far as my heart rate tracking. I've also enjoyed being able to use this as like a sleep tracker. And it has this little thing in here called a wellness check, which is a pretty neat little feature. This will actually show you your stress level that you have going on, and it'll give you some other metrics. So you could run this daily at a particular time of day to see if your metrics are lining up just right. Now, it does have a blood oxygen sensor. Now, from what I understand, none of this is actually like certified for medical use. So this is just going to be for your personal data, kind of tracking type information. Not something that I would solely rely on for medical purposes. But the main thing that I'm finding that I'm using this for is basically sleep tracking, my daily watch and fitness watch. And I typically use this particular watch for GPS tracking about 2 to 3 times a week whenever I go out on a run or a walk. And occasionally I will use this for a bike ride instead of using a head unit. I have found that this to be pretty accurate. I have ran the same course a couple of times, a simple 2-mile course that I've got in my area. And honestly, it seems to basically hit the 2-mile mark about the exact same spot every single time. So I would say the GPS accuracy on this seems to be pretty accurate overall. Now, I'm not the most detailed when it comes to how to analyze the GPS tracking. I just know from personal use and using GPS watches for years that this one seems to be doing a pretty stinking good job. The watch overall is quite a bit lighter than what my Apple Watch is, or at least it feels lighter. And I think that's primarily because of the materials it's made of. Where my Apple Watch is going to be made up of metals and glass and a little bit of plastic, the Coros Pace Pro is pretty much all kind of rubbery and plastic feeling. You can get a nylon band for this on their website, but the one that came stock with it is this kind of stretchy, rubbery feel. And that's what I've kind of used on my Apple Watch for the past several years, so I'm super familiar with it. The big thing that I really enjoyed the very first time that I got out on a run with this, I actually went out at night, and I really enjoyed the always on display and how easy it was to read right out of the get-go. I was able to set up some different metrics on the screen, and with the little scrolling wheel over here, you can actually scroll through those screens and see the different setups that you want to customize. Now, you can set up workouts on this watch. You can also set up distance runs. You can rerun previous routes. You can do navigation on this watch. So there are so many things that you can actually do on this watch that I'm not really using it for yet. But if that's something that you guys are interested in and you want to know more about a particular setting, let me know in the comments below and I can dive into more of those details, possibly on a future video. But let's talk about battery life real quick before we jump over to the Coros Dura and how this integrates with the watch. The battery life on this watch is pretty incredible. I'm coming from an Apple Watch that I have to charge it every single day. Even with the always on display, I'm getting about 4 to 5 days of actual battery life before I need to charge it. But with the always on display turned off, I was getting a week and a half. So there is a significant difference whenever you have always on versus the kind of raise to wake feature. And I've got to say, I'm loving having more battery life than just 1 day. That's a huge game changer for me. Having 4 to 5 days of use or a week and a half, all depending on how I have the display set up. I can track my sleep, I can track my running events, I can track my biking events, and then also get text messages and all that stuff that I'm used to getting on the Apple Watch. So this thing has been absolutely awesome. Now, the other feature that I was kind of curious about with this watch is the heart rate broadcasting. So I can actually do a Zwift ride on my Apple TV and be able to broadcast this as a heart rate monitor to my Zwift setup. So that means I no longer have to wear a heart rate strap or an arm strap, which Coros does sell a very nice soft arm strap that I've got, but I've yet to use because I've been loving the heart rate monitor on this watch and just being able to use this versus having to put on an extra heart rate strap. So yeah, the heart rate broadcasting is definitely one of my favorites. And that's where the Dura comes in. This is their brand new GPS unit. You may have seen some people like the Vegan Cyclist use this, or Troy on Trails has been using one of these. This is a solar paneled GPS unit made for your bike that gets incredible amount of battery life, upwards of 120 hours per charge. And with the solar panel that's actually built into this device, you wind up getting 2 hours of use per hour that this is actually sitting in the sun charging. So if you just left this on your bike while you went in and grabbed something to eat at a restaurant, and you were there for an hour, you would get 2 additional hours of usage. And something that they have done different than anybody else is they've integrated the little wheel. I call it like a little digital crown. It's the crown that you would typically see on a watch. And I absolutely love this. This allows you to scroll through all of your menus and select different things by simply pressing on the button on the side. It just makes it really easy. Instead of having to fumble with up and down buttons, you've got this nice little crown right here that you can just scroll up and down. The unit is super simple to use and operate. The only thing that I have found with this display is that it's not a super bright screen. And I let Coros know that I did have a little bit of trouble on one of my bike rides seeing it with my sunglasses on. I did raise the brightness all the way up and it helped slightly, but I still wish that the screen was every bit as bright as what the Pace Pro is. But to me, that's not a deal breaker. The convenience of this GPS, of having this little scroll wheel, being able to do all the things that you would expect out of a GPS, like being able to use navigation, turn-by-turn directions, and also be able to set up training plans and workout plans. You can even do a simulated FTP test on this. And a lot of this stuff is pretty commonplace on most other bike GPS units. And the thing that makes the Coros Dura so special is not really all of those features. The main thing that makes this special is the insane battery life with that solar panel up top. There's pretty much no other brand out on the market that I can see that's doing something at this level for this price. Now, I personally have just taken this on a few bike rides and I plan on taking this on a lot more bike rides over the summer. But the thing that I really like about it is that I can take my Pace Pro and I can sync its heart rate up to the Dura. And it does it instantaneously. Whenever you're in the Coros kind of family of units, they communicate extremely fast to each other. So knowing that I've always got a heart rate monitor with me whenever I use this computer is absolutely great, because any other brand, I would have to have a strap on my arm or on my chest. Now, a couple of quick notes on the Dura is that this does use a Garmin style mount. So right here, if you have a standard Garmin mount on your bike already, you can use that. But they do have their own little out front mount, which is really, really nice, kind of aerodynamic. It reminds me a lot of the Wahoo style that you would find on the Roam or the Bolt. But what's really neat is down here, there is a little tiny screw, and you can mount this to your bike. And then whenever you mount it to your bike, you can thread that little screw in. And whenever you thread that screw in, it locks the computer actually on the mount. So this bike computer could be permanently mounted to one of your bikes, and they're so confident with the solar power generating of this particular unit that they think that you don't have to take this off to worry about charging it. You just go out for a ride and it charges while you're riding. I thought that was pretty cool. You can lock this on. It's a very tiny, I think 1.5 millimeter Allen key. They do supply you with the appropriate Allen key. It's very, very tiny, but you could leave this on your bike and you don't have to worry about somebody coming up just taking your GPS unit off and running away with it. So those are kind of my initial rundowns of these two computers. Now, I didn't dive into all the specs of what these can do. And if you guys want to know a little bit more about each one of these and you would like an individual video, more detailed in my experiences with these, then leave it in the comments below and I might just make those videos. But I wanted to kind of give you my feedback on whether or not I thought it was worth going over to the Pace Pro from my Apple Watch and trying out their brand new Dura cycling computer. These two things are absolutely impressive. I love the fact that I don't have to worry about the battery life on this. For $249, you can get the Dura, and that's super cheap when it comes to a GPS that does everything that this does. Plus, it offers insane battery life. And the integration with their app, along with the Pace Pro and being able to basically sync these back and forth with heart rate is really, really cool. Now, the Pace Pro does come in at $349, and you don't have to have both of these to be able to track like a bike ride. It's just a really cool way to be able to see all of your data on basically two different units. And I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed with this when it comes to replacement for my Apple Watch. It's been about 10 years since I last used any other watch other than the Apple Watch, and I didn't know what I would think. But honestly, I kind of feel like Apple is a little bit behind, and some of you may not be surprised by that. But for me, I was a little bit shocked at how behind I felt like they were. The Pace Pro feels like it's leap years beyond what the Apple Watch is even capable of in several different categories. But my favorites, the battery life, the heart rate broadcasting, and the super big and bright screen. So if you guys are in the market for one of these, and you might go out and check out Coros's website. I'll put some links down below. I plan on using this on my XC bike pretty much all summer, and I plan on using the Pace Pro all day, every day, and whenever I go out for a run. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, definitely click the subscribe button, click the like button, leave me a comment on these, and let me know what you think. But if you guys want to be part of this channel even more, you can jump over to my Patreon page, Mike's Unlocked Garage. Over there, you will get early access to all my videos. You also get some behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, you can chat it up with me directly. So if you guys are enjoying this content, go check that out. All right, guys, as always, get out there and ride your bike. And why not go for a run while you're at it?
I got you, yeah, SOS, thought you was a threat.